Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Backlog Banter. My name is Tucker Hazel, and this is my optimistic but partially confused co-host, Abram Buhner. As today, we're here to talk about the Pokemon Day, Pokemon Presents, that Game Freak just dropped. We just finished watching it, and it was imbalanced, to say the very least, but we got an announcement that we're very excited to talk about. But if you want to talk to us about Gen 9 being this year, join our Discord, top of the description. You can also like the video, ring the bell, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, all those crazy nonsense. But Abram, we just finished the Pokemon Presents, and they did what I thought was not going to happen, and frankly I kind of didn't want to happen, as we'll get into. But Gen 9 is real. It is coming in late 2022, which probably just means November.
Second week in November.
And there we go.
Tucker, I want you to begin this discussion with an apology.
I'm very sorry.
I want to serve you a little bit of humble pie this morning, because here's the thing. I said as soon as it was revealed that we are getting Legends Arceus in January, that we were getting Gen 9 in November. And I feel like I actually don't deserve as much credit as I feel that I do, because I think this is actually more of a popular sentiment online than even I really realized.
Sure.
But regardless, Gen 9 is
coming. Yeah, I'm eating a hearty meal today. I mean, I haven't had breakfast yet. So this is very early.
It's very early.
I'm having a hearty meal of eating crow with the side of eating my words, because I explicitly mentioned to a couple of my friends in private messages and on the Discord that I really thought that Gen 9 was not going to happen this year. Not only because Legends Arceus had just come out and is pretty much categorically the most ambitious Pokemon game that we've gotten, but because there has been complaints to Game Freak for almost all of their recent titles saying, hey, slow down, give yourself more time in the oven. These games can be better. You have the power, but you're not giving them that time. So my headcanon was Game Freak's finally listening. They put out 2 Pokemon games back to back, so they didn't need to put out Gen 9 this year. And Gen 9 could have another year in the oven. And, Legends Arceus sales could have easily carried the rest of this year. But they're not going to. We're adding 2 gigantic, ambitious Pokemon games to this year's slate. A slate that is already packed with not only Nintendo games, but games for the entire industry as a whole. And this is just an extra cherry on top of that.
Yeah, let me speak out of my ass for a second here.
Do you ever not?
So here's, if I understand the situation correctly, here's the lay of the land.
Okay.
Ilka, produced by key members at Game Freak, but developed externally.
Yeah.
Legends Arceus developed in large part by Game Freak's B team and by younger, newer talent.
Sure.
Scarlet and Violet, Generation 9, as we now have the titles, most likely done by that Sword and Shield A team, which probably has been in support capacities on these 2 titles, but not an active development of a brand new title since probably 2019, and then the team went on to make the DLC. Whenever that was done, I don't fucking know. Yeah. I think, and I ended up being correct, that there was always that S tier of the Game Freak's developers who had the time and space to do Generation 9.
Yeah.
And I think
I never thought for a moment that Generation 9 was not in development by Game Freak's A team.
Right, but I think there was a compelling reason to think that whether it isn't, whether it's in pre-production, whether it's in full production, it was just going to be saved until 2023.
Yeah.
Because Tucker, and here's the thing about this. This to me looks like what I really want from Legends Arceus, having now played it, which is a refined version of Legends Arceus. And we see, of course, it's very early, but the way that they're sort of depicting the game with the wide environments, the cut-in shots of Pokemon, it seems like probably another free camera. This looks like a more polished, heavy on the bloom lighting, but more polished lens into maybe that Sword and Shield DLC, Legends Arceus, kind of taking those ideas and stitching into Generation 9.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's what's most exciting about this. I mean, we were going to do a discussion about how we thought Legends Arceus was going to shape the future of the series, which we didn't end up doing, but frankly, I would have said something quite to the extent of what was revealed here today, is placing larger environments, free camera, presumably battling in the environments like in Legends Arceus. No fucking way they remove that. Maybe the aiming of the Pokeballs, who knows, like those kind of mechanics placed into a modern place with a more stringent story and more towns to visit and online battling, like the things that Pokemon is known for, a bigger focus on trainer battles, things that the core franchise has been known for, and where Legends Arceus stepped away most heavily was, of course, in the gameplay, but also in the structure. This, I think, will be the wild area in Sword and Shield split up into different areas, so it actually makes sense that there's a desert area and a snow area and a beach area, with those acting as routes between larger towns, very large towns, as we can see. One can just only hope and pray that there's actually things to do and places to go and interact with us in these towns, which I don't have high hopes for, to be 100% honest. But this does seem like the natural conclusion of it, and a very exciting conclusion of it that sort of gives us a balance to Legends Arceus that I think will be really nice.
Yeah, I'm just very excited for this game. I'm really
believe it or not.
I'm really actually quite pleased with this announcement, because I found myself, everything Pokemon related has really been lacking for me in some respect, but it feels like every time we're stepping a little bit closer. So when you're talking about changes in structure, when you're talking about all this, I've been seeing it as like unfulfilled opportunities to really bring Pokemon, as you just said, to its natural conclusion in its current state.
Yeah.
Whether that happens here, I don't know, but it feels like that's kind of what's being communicated in that trailer.
Yeah.
So for me, this finally seems like the opportunity for me to get super hyped out a Switch Pokemon game when it's actually in my hands, the way you were for Legends Arceus, the way that Sickos were for Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, and the way that I kind of was for Sword and Shield, because as we've talked about at many junctures on this channel, I actually like Sword and Shield. Just not nearly to the extent that I wanted to. But it really is a lot of speculation we're doing right now, because there is not much concrete information, including the fact that it's returning Pokemon. We got the starters, as we'll talk about, but it's a lot of older stuff.
That, first off, does not worry me or bother me or make me confused at all. Almost every single, there is literally only one exception where there's not a heavy emphasis on returning Pokemon, and that was Unova, and I don't expect them to ever do that again. Game Freak has gotten used to doing, and I think rightfully so, smaller and smaller new additions, new groups of Pokemon added to the decks, because there's a lot of fucking Pokemon, and they can pull from a lot of different threads to make a compelling regional decks, and that's what they're going to do here. And I think what is most exciting about the fact that while we're seeing all these returning Pokemon, we're seeing these new environments, we're seeing this new region, is that this seems to be a lot higher quality. Frankly, this is the first time since Gen 6 that we were getting explicitly new Pokemon models. There were, of course, a lot of new animations and things done in both Sword and Shield and Legends Arceus, but we've been using these same base models for a long time. And while these are very similar, they're heavily retextured, giving them a much more realistic feel, and giving Pokemon, for one of the first times in its modern history, an explicitly new art style that I think is pretty exciting. And it's going to be interesting to see how this game comes out, how it runs, how it actually looks in action, because this is better than Legend of Arceus. It looks good. It looks better than other Pokemon games, but it still looks like an early Wii U game at best. Like you can see this being a launch title. It doesn't look great. And of course, that doesn't matter to me. Legends Arceus being visually unappealing is my knock against that game, but I still give that game like a 9 out of 10. So I'm not worried about it, but it's just kind of unfortunate that this game, we're off the bat. It's already unfortunate that this doesn't get another year in the oven to come out looking as good as it could.
Yeah.
In terms of resolution and frame rate, because even this trailer was having weird frame rate issues with the camera panning through these environments and stuff.
Yeah, it's hard to know what's compressed and fucked up by YouTube. It's hard to know what is an early build, what isn't. I don't have a ton of hope, because Legends Arceus did look better when it released, but it still didn't look significantly better, in my opinion. But it certainly is an improvement. And as you're saying, there's a greater amount of detail here. Yeah. And I wouldn't actually be surprised if it came out that maybe Bandai Namco has a support role in this game.
Yeah, it does have a very similar vibe to the realism of New Pokemon Snap. Exactly. Yeah.
In an age where Game Freak is maybe willing to experiment with the structure more and outsource an entire remake, I wouldn't be surprised, because I believe Monolith Soft did help with Sword and Shield.
Yeah, and I believe Legends Arceus to some capacity. Yeah, I'm wrong about that.
So I wouldn't be surprised if, considering
if there's a large area in a game, Nintendo's like, Monolith Soft, I know you're working on your own games right now that are also large and ambitious, but just like Send 5 people over. Send a little support squadron over to Game Freak to help out.
And that's, well, and actually, it was only the secret sauce in Breath of the Wild, and it doesn't matter. The point is, Bandai Namco between New Pokemon Snap has done good work for the Pokemon Company.
Yeah.
So if you're telling me that the A team of Pokemon supported by a couple support teams are making us the proper Generation 9 with a more open format, well, then I think that could be really compelling. But it definitely is. It's not on the level of fidelity of the other first party, second party games on Switch. But for me, the promise of Generation 9 outweighs that.
Yeah.
Because
I don't disagree.
Yeah. Because the thing about it for me, and I think part of the reason why maybe Legends Arceus at any point never super registered in my radar, so I was always super excited for it, but there's a disconnect, especially as we're getting into launch for me.
Mm.
It was like this, to some extent, is still just a breeding ground of new ideas. We're going to return to Sinnoh. Of course, it's going to be called Hisui, but we're going to return here. It's very clearly being angled in a way that doesn't feel right. Something feels off about that January release date.
It's not fully new, even though it's the most new Pokemon game, but it's still got these elements that are like, hey, hold on. We're not taking that full step forward yet, even though it's like a 3/4 step forward. It's like a 4/5 step forward, you know. They called that the 4/5 compromise, I believe.
I think that's not a joke we should make on the channel. But here's the thing about it. Here's what's important to note. We have no reason to even suspect that this game has the catching or battling mechanics of Legends Arceus.
Very true. Yes.
And that's an important asterisk to put on the game.
Yeah.
I merely see the idea of the open environment in a post-Arceus world and say, hey, at least some of the design themes are carrying over to the next proper Pokemon game.
Yeah.
The design mechanics, we have no idea.
No, of course not. Which is interesting. And we've never had to have this question in our hands before because Legends Arceus is the first time there's even a question mark on what will the gameplay format of a Pokemon game be like, because it was the first time that it was ever really changed up. What I do find very compelling and exciting about this isn't what happened with Gen 7 specifically, which is the first region I really paid attention to its reveal cycle of, where it was concept art and logo. All right, it's coming this year. And then we got a drip feed of information. I actually really like how Alola was rolled out. But the fact that we're going straight in with a big open world trailer, these are the environments. Pokemon are more detailed. There's large open world. There's more detailed like specific towns and environments.
Yeah.
That's very exciting to me that they're willing to just go like, hey, here it is. No bullshit. You're looking at Gen 9 and it's big and open and looks better. That's nice to me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think they're communicating the right things. I think they're communicating, hey, this is Pokemon in the vein of your Sword and Shield DLC and your vein of Legends Arceus.
Yeah.
Which one of those it falls on mechanically, we're gonna have to determine when the game releases in November. And so
because it will.
Yeah. The last thing I kind of want to touch on in terms of the actual game itself is I want to first say that I think the trainer design is kind of cool. I like his hat.
Sure.
It's a totally fine trainer design. And I want to talk about the starters. And I want to talk about the context of the release, because I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
But what do you think of the starters?
I think the starters are fine. I kind of go through a cycle every time a generation is revealed where I'm like, these starters are a little bit weird, but then inevitably I get used to them and they just become a part of the oeuvre of Pokemon, and I don't care. I pick my favorite and congratulations. Like even if I'm not in love with these designs now, I might be in the future. Their evolutions might change that. Like the clear favorite for me is this little stout dragon guy with a little apple thing coming out of his head. Great, classic, love it. So that's certainly what I'm going for, at least for now. Yet to see evolutions.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always partial to the water starter. I basically always have been.
Yeah.
Just living by the coast, I've always been like, the water guy is my guy. And this is not going to change, but also mine is like a fucking duck with a hat. But that's also what I like out of my character designs. I love like a traditional animal Pokemon, or like a classic Disney character, and this is what it feels like to me.
Sure.
And as we were saying before we started recording, it's basically just ducklet with a hat on, but that's kind of fine with me.
Yeah.
But also yours is basically like, it's like a Gibble if he was an Appleton, and then
that's a great point.
The other one is Grass Zoroa, or as you said, Asper. So it's possible that we're starting to return to those concepts. The other thing, the other thing I wanted to say, before we talk about the meta discussion around there even being a Gen 9 this year,
Yeah, yeah.
is that the names Scarlet and Violet are really interesting to me because
Okay.
we're returning to colors.
Colors, yeah, for the first time since Black and White.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And black and white in many ways, because there's been, believe it or not, red, blue, yellow,
Hmm.
and green, if you want to get technical about it.
Yeah.
And then I consider gold and silver to be like metals,
Yeah.
especially because they get crystal.
They start that metallurgic slash gemstone slash earthen material oeuvre that pervades the next three generations.
And then Pokemon's just like, fuck it. Here's just like letters and like things and like
Yeah,
whatever. But my point is, I think calling Black and White was a deliberate decision because it was in many ways a soft reboot of the series.
sure. Yeah,
I think it is also very deliberate that this game is called Scarlet and Violet.
sure.
Now, what that ends up meaning, I'm going to need a bigger trailer to understand.
Yeah, yeah,
but I'm just feeling it in my balls.
yeah.
And I'm not wearing pants right now because I literally rolled out of bed to record this video. I feel it in my balls that this is
Proof.
going.
Oh, he's doing it. Yeah. Okay. There's his little tidy whities or whatever. So, all right.
I feel it in my balls that this is going to be a Pokemon game that feels familiar.
Sure.
I think
Okay.
I think Game Freak has taken it on the chin a number of times recently. And I would not be surprised if the game, in some extent or another, feels older.
Okay.
It may be in terms of the storytelling style, maybe in
Mhm.
terms of the Pokemon represented, but I think the idea that the starters are very naturalized, they're animals, the names of the games are colors. This is just this is near baseless, but it's just a
Yeah.
thought I have that I want to explore when we get an actual proper trailer.
That's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
It will be very difficult to categorically prove if that
Yes.
is true or not.
So we'll see.
So that's a discussion to have after the game is out, frankly.
Yeah.
But cool. Yeah, you could be right. It's fine. The returning to colors. Every time that there's a new Pokemon game revealed, you're looking at it and you're like, all right, what's the pair of things that they're gonna do? Polar opposites is this like classic versus Scarlet and Violet does not come to mind. I don't think anyone has ever even thought about these being the names of the next Pokemon game, especially considering
Yeah.
they're kind of just a different version of red and blue. Like you spin the color wheel like 3 degrees and you hit yourself a Scarlet and a Violet.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean anything. They're just the names of the games.
That's a good point, because like, what did X and Y mean other than the fact that the legendaries are kind of shaped like letters?
Yeah.
I just think that there might be something deeper here.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah,
but that's a bridge to cross another time.
All right.
But Tucker, I was struck by a thought as we were talking about the game in more detail. I was struck by a thought. Assuming the game releases in November, which is basically a foregone conclusion, I think you can probably put money down on it either launching the Friday of the second or third week of November. That's pretty much guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
In a 12-month period, we will have played 3 distinct mainline Pokemon RPGs.
Yeah. Which is a little bit overkill, maybe, in my opinion. I love Pokemon. I've enjoyed most of the games that they've put out. But I think the thing is maybe they're kind of playing catch up because they took a year off for the Sword and Shield DLC, quote unquote. And they just kind of want to prove like, hey, we've got all these ideas, we've got all this stuff we want to show you. And they're getting it out in a way that to me doesn't particularly communicate confidence, but instead communicates, hey, we need to get these games out so that we can continue the anime and put out the new cards and stuff, which is how it usually goes for new generations. But I learned my lesson with Sword and Shield is that there is a way for a Pokemon game to feel rushed. And there's a chance that this one is as well. So I'm more trepidatiously excited for this than I ever have been for a Pokemon game.
Here's where it gets complicated, I think.
Okay.
Because I think every Pokemon game beginning with Sword and Shield has felt rushed.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And so I think the problem is that the stakes compound every time.
Yeah. It gets more and more rushed.
And my expectation of that rushed quality gets more and more, because here's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Putting Legends Arceus in January hurt Legends Arceus.
Yes.
Putting Generation 9 in Legend Arceus's November spot is a double fuck you if that game is not ready.
Yeah.
because you have to think about this. 15 million copies or something sold of Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl as of last reporting. Those games are
Mhm.
going to do. Those games could have easily carried us to this November for
Yeah.
Legends Arceus, and Legends Arceus would have
Yes.
been way better for it.
Hmm.
And Legends Arceus was doing 1 million copies a day in that first week.
Yeah.
So it could have easily carried us to holiday 2023
Yes.
for Scarlet and Violet. So my point there is only that Pokemon companies put themselves in a position with me, the
Hmm.
arbiter of taste.
Yeah.
I need to revive the name here.
Hmm.
That this game cannot feel rushed
Yeah.
because then it has become 3 times transparent that the Pokemon company, even when there's an opportunity for a new idea, cares more about the bottom line than
Yeah.
about the quality of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be it'll be interesting to see how this transitions into the future of the series. Presumably, this is the last new mainline entry, new generation on Switch. It's saving the next one for their next generation or for the next console. But will this continue to compound? Will they continue to have more projects than in the past, more interesting ideas, more different angles on the Pokemon franchise? Because the one thing that the Switch generation of Pokemon has been is rushed, but also just almost entirely new ideas. No two games on the system are alike, and that
No,
is interesting. It is certainly a fresh thing for Pokemon. I think it's a good thing
I
overall,
agree.
but it has led to questions being asked about each of these games. Okay, why aren't you taking a step back, slowing down? Your games are going to sell some of the best of all time, regardless. Give yourself more time making these games better, and you will be prouder of a better product, and we will be happier with a better product. You're right about the carrying through thing that I think is the main thought here is BDSP comes out last year. It's mediocre. It's whatever. It sells great. We're fine waiting a year for Pokemon. It has always been at least a year between Pokemon games. So if Legends Arceus comes out this November, we never think twice that why is it taking so long? This is the biggest, most ambitious Pokemon game ever. Of course, it's going to be a year between releases. But then they give us 3-4 months between the releases. Oh, holy shit! All right, now there's a new expectation. These games are coming out faster, and they're more ambitious, and they're feeling these different qualities. It's very strange. They've created a sort of downward spiral for themselves of the games are going to have to start coming out quicker now, and they might suffer for it.
Yeah, I think your point about the Sword and Shield DLC is interesting
Mm-hmm.
because the either they have put themselves in this self-defeating circle of
Yeah,
we have going to have less and less development time, which is the opposite of what Ilka's injection into the mix was supposed to do.
supposed to. Yeah, it's true.
Or it was just that this is a weird like fold over period where it just so
True.
happens
From
that
2020.
yeah, that because I wouldn't be surprised, Tucker, if there's basically the Kevin Feige like MCU board
Mm-hmm.
in a fucking lock under retinal and fingerprint scanner in the basement of the Pokemon Company headquarters, where
I'm pretty sure
there's
that's where that cop guy went today in the
yes,
trailer. Yeah.
where they're like, this is the year that Generation 9 comes out, and then this is the year the Unova remake comes out, and then this is the year that Legends 2 comes out, and
Yeah.
this is the year that Generation 10 comes out, and then at this point in time, we're going to have reached this financial milestone for the franchise as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way that Pokemon Company moves, I would not be surprised if they could take the time off because of Sword and Shield DLC and then because of BDSP. But
Yeah.
as you're saying, that there might be a bigger imperative there to catch up with their own feet to get back
Yeah.
on whatever path they're on before, which is disappointing, but probably the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
But I guess the bottom line for me, Tucker, is that I am more excited for this than I have been for any Pokemon project since Sword and Shield.
I think that's really interesting. I
Yeah.
think it's not true for me
Yeah.
personally. I think that seeing Legends Arceus for the first time was such a breath of fresh air of,
Yeah.
of holy shit, finally Pokemon is doing something new. And I think this could be better, maybe not more interesting, but better because it is developed by that A team, because it is taking tenets of the Pokemon franchise that have been established that we know work and incorporating them with the new ideas from Sword and Shield's DLC and Legends Arceus and all of that. It's yet obviously yet to be seen to what extent new ideas are interwoven, to what extent the structure is different. But regardless, the fact that we have now injected a new strand of DNA into the franchise, and Legends Arceus has set a new standard of we're more than likely going to be battling in the open world. That is
Yeah.
already a step above what Sword and Shield did for immersion. Having these multiple over environments is already a step over Sword and Shield's wild area, which was kind of janky and didn't really work. So the fact that they are willing to take these ideas and say, hey, no, the mainline series, the new generations can be more ambitious, can take these other ideas, is very cool, because frankly, the until generation 8, we were getting similar structure. We were getting the same kind of areas over and over again. And now we've got something fresh. And I think for me, that's what's most exciting about this. And the fact that it does look better than Sword and Shield did, and does look better than Legends Arceus does. And there is more potential for there to be this mishing of ideas that ends up with a better product. I think this game has the most potential, because they finally have their fucking sea legs under them, which obviously they didn't with Sword and Shield. And that's cool to see.
Yeah, I'm compelled by the idea of you saying it's better than Sword and Shield, and that was the last proper generation. Mm-hmm. This is generation 9.
Yeah.
This isn't Legends Arceus 2. It isn't even Unova Legends or something. Mm-hmm. It's generation 9. And we see overworld Pokemon. Yeah. We see bigger environments. Mm-hmm. We're going to hopefully see a level of polish that I just don't think the Legends Arceus had. And we're going to return in spirit to, I think unfortunately we're going to end up in the same gym badge structure.
Yeah, it's possible.
But I like that tone, at least. Even if I would like a different narrative, but I like the fun tone of being the little kid who sits out on the adventure. Yeah. Now I hope we go on a different adventure, or at least a more compelling adventure than we did in Sword and Shield, for instance. But yeah, I like that feel. And I think that feel for me was missing a little bit in Legends Arceus by design. But for my personal subjective enjoyment, this is the bigger Pokemon with the feel that I've always loved.
No, I think that's more reasonable than I would want to let on. But the idea of Gen 8 being this like weird half mutation into open environments and stuff, and we still have really lame routes connecting the towns and really lame gym puzzles to get to the gym leader, and really lame towns. Frankly, the towns in Sword and Shield were pretty much categorically awful. Yeah. The idea of the games can be more open now. We can take more liberties with structure and puzzles and routes and stuff like that. That is already more exciting than what these other games have done. The fact that they're allowing themselves to say, hey, no, I know we've done routes for the last 20 years, but maybe routes aren't the best way to make an engaging experience in an immersive world. And hopefully we see that this time.
Again, asterisk that maybe all of this is horse shit, and it's going to be routes, and it's going to be a combination of underworld and overworld Pokemon, and fuck it, who knows. But Generation 9, I'm going to play as my little duck with a captain's hat on, and it's going to come out in 8 months.
Oh, Lord.
But Tucker,
quickly mention that the reason that this discussion is exciting is because they announced Generation 9, but not because of what happened in the other 12 minutes of this fucking showcase. Because God forbid they have other interesting games to show off, or interesting things to show off for their pre-existing games, because a lot of this stuff was like, hey, we're adding Duraludon to Pokemon Unite in 3 months. Hey,
here's a shiny Piplup event in Pokemon Cafe Mix.
Yeah,
things of that nature.
They've really created an interesting place for themselves to announce things for their games that could be a Twitter post and no one would be any the wiser.
And I don't also have any fucking idea what that like policeman in the fucking abandoned school bit was.
Yeah, that was very strange
there. But
we're gonna be covering anything Scarlet and Violet going forward this year. We'll be reviewing the game when it comes out, faster than it took us to review Legends Arceus this last month. And I can't wait to see you guys until then.
No, this is the last Pokemon video on the channel.